Soft wisps of cloud caressed the towering peaks, where a city of shining stone hid behind the sky's misty veil. Long ago, the Inca people spoke of a sacred realm resting high above the mortal world, a realm guarded not by soldiers or fortress walls, but by shimmering, feathered beings. Only the worthy found this place. Many travelers ventured into the mountains, lured by promises of meeting the guardians who watched from the heavens. None returned, for the city allowed only those with pure hearts, leaving others to wander barren slopes or vanish without a trace. Cunara was the daughter of a renowned weaver, known for her vibrant textiles that seemed to capture the sun's radiance. She lived at the heart of a village, perched below the grand ridges, connected to the rest of the empire by winding paths. On dull afternoons, she would listen to the elders spin tales of a lost paradise above the clouds. In these stories, warriors with bird-like grace patrolled the parapets, and the flutter of plumage stirred whenever any foot drew too close to the city's unmarked boundaries. It was said that these avian sentinels each wore a different hue, reflecting the unique skills of those they protected. Every evening, Cunarari visited her grandfather. Though nearly blind, his hands remained deft, and he wove tapestries narrating epics of old. When Cunara was younger, he had told her that knowledge dwelled in the swirling recesses of the mountains, carried on the calls of condors. Year after year, she pressed him for more details about the lost city's defenses. He obliged with stories of the feathered Vigil, guardians said to be half human, half bird, their enormous resplendent wings glimmering in the thin air. In his hushed voice, her grandfather explained that they were no mere legends, for his own grandfather had journeyed close to that place and returned shaken by what he saw. Cunara's grandfather would lean forward, his cataract-clued eyes focused on a distant memory no one else could detect. He spoke of a day so clear that a traveller could stand on any ridge and see figures perched upon a far stone spire. The traveller observed these silhouettes spring from the ground and glide across the canyons, leaving only a vanishing shape in the brilliant sunshine. The presence of the guardians evoked both awe and fear, for they were believed to be servants of the gods, ensuring the city's secrets remained safe from corrupt hearts. As Cunara came of age, curiosity gnawed at her. She often climbed small hills behind the village with her wooden staff, imagining how the horizon might look from the vantage of the city in the clouds. Despite her family warning her, she found herself dreaming of the faint outline of stony terraces above. Now and then, she could swear she spotted fluttering specks that vanished as clouds passed. How could she resist the call? Everything in her life pointed upward, from the bright tapestries she wove depicting wings and swirling skies to the echo of her grandfather's words reverberating in her mind. The call to adventure arrived on an ordinary day. A messenger from the next town, exhausted and frantic, arrived with startling news. An imperial official sought skilled weavers to present tapestries at a ceremonial gathering in the highlands. This official insisted these works must depict legendary creatures from local folklore. It was rumored that the official hoped to become favored by the emperor, who valued religious devotion to the ancient traditions. Cunara's mother was honored but weary, suspecting the official's thirst for political gain. Nevertheless, she agreed to travel, for refusing the request would risk diminishing her family's reputation. Cunara filled her pack with cloth, dyes, and weaving tools, her excitement barely contained. She suspected that once they neared the mountaintops, she might discover a chance to approach the cloud-shrouded city. She had no plan beyond her determination to see truth with her own eyes. The mother and daughter set off with a small caravan, crossing rope bridges suspended above rushing rivers and following narrow cliffside trails, each step threatening a plunging fall into the swirling mists below. At higher altitudes, the air thinned, making their ascent arduous. The caravan's donkeys grew restless, braying in protest. The travelers paused often to adjust, breath sharp in their chests. Camps at night fell silent except for the howling wind that carried the sound of condors cutting through the star-encrusted sky. At times, Kunara thought she heard faint wing beats overhead, but turning her face skyward revealed only drifting clouds. They reached the officials' encampment at a plateau partway up the range. Large tents ringed a courtyard of packed dirt, and richly dyed banners fluttered in the wind. Kunara and her mother slid to their knees before a stern-faced official, offering him a sample tapestry. His tight-lipped expression softened as he noticed how intricately Kunara had woven an image of a regal condor, wings outspread over a shining city. He commended their work, awarding them the favor of the emperor's name. But in private he pressed them for more. "If you have heard any old secrets of that hidden city, an official such as I could greatly benefit from them." Though tempted to reveal all she had learned from her grandfather, Kunara held her tongue. She sensed that the official's interest was rooted in ambition and not reverence or wonder. So she feigned ignorance, neither confirming nor denying the city's truth. His disappointed stare lingered on her a moment before he dismissed them. That night, Kunara conjured a plan to separate from the group and slip farther into the mountains at dawn. Her mother worried, but Kunara reminded her of a promise she had made, to always follow the call of the weaving spirits, whose threads guide one to their unknown destiny. She left with her mother's blessing well before sunrise. Traveling alone among such imposing peaks felt both exhilarating and daunting. The paths narrowed, some crumbling away to reveal gaping chasms wreathed in winds strong enough to topple a lone traveler. Yet an inner warmth guided Kunara forward. She clutched a small token carved from bone, a figurine of a bird given to her by her grandfather. "May it keep you safe on your most important journey," he had once said. Under the faint light of dawn, she traversed ridges leading ever upward. Below, wisps of low-lying clouds blanketed the world, making it seem as though she was drifting above an endless sea. Near midday, Kunara encountered a rickety rope bridge spanning a gorge. Hesitation washed over her, but the vision of the fabled city propelled her on. She tested each step. Halfway across, a sudden gust made the bridge sway violently. Gasping, she clung to the side ropes. Her heart pounded as planks groaned beneath her weight. Each shift threatened to catapult her into the darkness below. She squeezed her eyes shut, silently praying to the ancient spirits for calm. The wind calmed, allowing her to straighten and move. When she reached solid ground, she collapsed in relief. As the sun climbed higher, Kunara reached a high pass from which she could see an alcove carved into the mountain crest. She paused, mesmerized by movement inside that alcove. It was a person, or so it seemed, yet their arms were outstretched, and shimmering feathers jutted from their cloak. They gazed at her, motionless as if assessing whether she posed a threat. Gathering her courage, Kunara took a step forward and bowed. Her voice tremored. "I come in respect and seek the truth of the hidden city." The figure regarded her for a long moment, then turned and disappeared. Drawn toward the alcove, Kunara discovered an entrance concealed by large stones. Beyond them lay a series of terraces built into the rock. Grass and flowers grew at wild angles, as though no one had tended them for generations. Following a stone path, Kunara saw glimpses of carved fountains and small huts that must have housed watchers or pilgrims in times of old. Then she spotted another figure gliding overhead. This time she caught the flash of resplendent plumage, blue and green, swirling like living tapestry. The bird-like being soared soundlessly toward a set of arched gates at the far end of the terraces. Kunara's chest tightened. She was about to cross into a place scarcely touched by mortal feet for centuries. As she approached the gates, she marveled at stone reliefs depicting cloud motifs, condors, and figures wearing feathered mantles. Each carving was more exquisite than the last, enshrining some lost artistry. Uncertain if she should knock or push, she rested a hand upon the stone door. It shuddered and swung open with eerie ease. She stepped through. Inside, the city revealed itself in layers of wide plazas, stepping upward toward a grand temple perched at the summit. Narrow channels carried clear water from hidden springs that trickled into small pools. Buildings crafted from perfectly fitted stones stood in silent grandeur. And perched atop walls, parapets and balconies were more of the feathered guardians. Some had shimmering red plumage, others a golden hue, some crouched with folded wings, their faces hidden behind masks shaped like bird heads. Their presence embraced both the savage grace of raptors and a transcendent wisdom. One guardian in particular landed before Kunara. This being's face, half hidden under a mask of quetzal feathers, regarded her with serene curiosity. Its arms, etched with swirling tattoos, ended in elongated hands with finger joints resembling the curves of talons. The wings at its back caught the light, each feather tinted with shifting greens. Kunara fought the urge to drop to her knees. Instead, she lowered her head in a gesture of respect, remembering the stories her grandfather had told. The guardian nodded once, then motioned for her to follow. They traversed deserted courtyards, passing stone altars that glowed faintly in the midday sun. Kunara's guide led her toward a large circular plaza, flanked by tall pillars carved to resemble standing condors. A hush wrapped around them as they entered, and the other guardians positioned themselves around the circle, gazing at Kunara from beneath their dazzling plumage. She felt both vulnerable and oddly empowered. They were studying her, weighing her heart. She began to speak, voice wavering. "My people have always spoken of you, guardians of the sacred city. My grandfather told me you protect the knowledge and gifts of the ancestors. I have come seeking understanding, not to plunder or conquer. My woven art attempts to keep your stories alive." For a moment, no one spoke. Then, the guardian nearest to her lowered its mask, revealing a face that was strikingly human. Angular cheekbones and eyes with irises of burnished bronze possessed an otherworldly intensity. In a quiet voice that echoed among the columns, the guardian replied, "For centuries we have watched humans from these heights. Men have come searching for gold and power, or for the secrets of immortality. But you arrived alone, and we sense in your spirit a sincere reverence. You brought no weapons, only a heart guided by curiosity." An immense flood of relief and wonder coursed through Kunara. She dared glance up at the circle of guardians, their plumes fluttering in a breeze that carried whispers of ages past. The guardian continued, "We were commanded by the ancient deities to remain here, until a time comes when humans can shoulder the responsibility of our knowledge without corruption. Until such a day, we stay in Vigil." Images flooded Kunara's mind. Visions of the city's origin. She saw wise Inca priests climbing the mountain in a mystical ceremony, summoning sacred birds from the heavens. She saw the forging of a pact with the gods, bestowing upon these chosen watchers the power to blend the realms of man and avian. Their duty to maintain harmony between the earthly and the divine. Over the centuries, the city disappeared into the mist of forgotten lore. Yet, the guardians stayed, keeping faithful watch. The winged figure explained that only a handful of mortals had glimpsed them, and fewer still had been permitted to walk the city's plazas. Some left, never to speak of it, possessed by gratitude or a profound understanding of the unrest that knowledge could spark. Others chose to remain, transformed into guardians themselves through devotion and the acceptance of the gods. The guardian lifted a hand, showing Kunara a small token that glowed with faint luminescence, a carving of a bird strikingly similar to the one her grandfather had given her. "It was left here ages ago by one who carried your lineage," the guardian said softly. A swell of awe overtook Kunara. She realized her grandfather's stories were grounded in more than rumor. Her family's tie to this place spanned generations. A tear slipped down her cheek. "Why did they leave it?" she asked. The guardian considered her question for a moment before responding. "Perhaps they felt they were meant to remain here but were not ready. Or perhaps they foresaw a descendant who would someday return. bridging the worlds of cloud and earth. Cunara's guide stepped forward, raising its plumage in silent invitation. She followed into one of the intact buildings. The interior was simple, with stone benches and an open roof through which the sky was visible. The guardian unfurled an ancient tapestry that hung upon the wall. Though faded, Cunara could discern symbols akin to those in her family's woven designs, swirling shapes representing flight, stylized birds, and a city enclosed in clouds. At the base of these depictions, she saw a figure that could have been her ancestor, offering a carved bird figurine to a winged being. "Teach me," Cunara said in a hushed urgency. "Show me how to honor this knowledge in a way that doesn't lead to greed or ruin." For the first time, the guardian's eyes held a hint of a smile. "Your spirit is open to learning," it said. "We will instruct you in the old ways, so you can weave new stories that remind people of their unity with the heavens, that they might remember humility and gratitude." In the days that followed, Cunara remained in the city among the guardians. They communicated through half-spoken words and gestures of the spirit, revealing secrets of the wind's language, the whispers that condor wings carried from peak to peak. She discovered how the gods anchored the sky to the earth by invisible rivers of energy. The guardians taught her to see these threads, to sense how all living things were connected. Sometimes, at dawn, they led her to altars, where she could offer thanks to the sun and the mountains. At night, she dreamt of weaving a tapestry so grand it encompassed every star in the sky, bridging the divine and the mortal. As she wandered the plazas, she noticed remnants of a once bustling community. Old pottery, gardens now overgrown, and living quarters that hinted at families who had dwelled here. The weight of history pressed upon her. She wondered if others would ever be allowed to return, if the city might someday pulse with life again. One evening she asked her guide if the city was meant to remain hidden forever. The guardian considered, wings rustling in a night breeze. Not forever. One day, if humanity's heart is purer, the separation between this realm and the world below will end. But we do not see that day arriving soon. For now, the city remains beyond mortal reach, save for those chosen by the spirits. It is our burden and our blessing to stand watch." Cunara bowed her head, a spark of longing in her chest. She found herself imagining her mother discovering these terraces. Would she gaze in wonder or fear what she did not understand? And what of the official in the encampment below? He craved power more than enlightenment. Even so, a seed of hope took root within Cunara. Perhaps by sharing her story, she could awaken the seeds of reverence in human hearts, coaxing the day of unity closer. In ancient times, so the guardians said, the city was not cloaked in secrecy. Pilgrims from across the empire visited to learn from the priests, forging alliances through common rituals. The guardians were not hidden watchers then, but open protectors, caring for wounded travelers and guiding the lost. Not until conflict and greed invaded the empire did the city retreat into veils of cloud and spirit. Now only the labyrinth of narrow mountain paths, guarded by the watcher's intangible wards, maintained separation from the outside world. "Your weaving has the power to heal," her guide once told her. "Threads are like the lines connecting all beings. Woven art has the ability to speak across time. If you weave our story into your tapestries, you keep the promise between the mortal realm and this hidden city." A mixture of sadness and exultation filled Cunara as she realized her time in the city was concluding. She had learned more than she could ever have dreamed. One morning, she woke to find a new tapestry draped gently over a low stone bench. Fashioned from luminous fibers, it displayed the swirling shapes of birds, mountains, and shimmering clouds. In the center stood a figure with outstretched arms, a radiant weaving tool in her hands. Her breath caught in her throat. It was her own likeness. This was the guardian's parting gift. She wrapped the tapestry around her shoulders. It was as though the city's heartbeat pulsed through the threads. Then the guardians gathered for a final gathering in the central plaza. The figure with the Quetzal feather mask placed its hand on Kunara's shoulder. "Return to your people. We will watch from afar. Bring hope. Bring reverence." Voices of the other guardians rose in harmonic resonance as wind currents swirled through the gateways, stirring up small eddies of mist. When Kunara walked to the city's arched gates, a hush settled. Behind her, the guardians parted, allowing her to pass. She stepped beyond the threshold, onto the same terrace from which she had arrived. One blink, and the swirling cloud seemed to descend, shrouding everything in thick white. By the time the mist cleared, the city had vanished. All that remained was the silent cliff face, veined with hardy grass and flowers clinging to crevices. She would have doubted her memory had she not felt the tapestry around her shoulders, radiant with a comforting warmth. The journey down the mountain proved just as treacherous, but now Kunara carried within her an unshakable purpose. Time felt fluid, for each bend in the path reminded her of a lesson from the guardians. She descended quickly, spurred on by the desire to share her revelations. Weeks later, she found her mother at a village outpost, weaving by a humble fire. Tears filled her mother's eyes when she saw Kunara safe, though she marveled at the new cloak she wore.